Okay, I wanted to talk about this. The main reason I'm going to be talking about DC Comics, this is an old, about 18 years ago. This was a two-book sort of crossover of sorts between the Justice League of America and the Justice Society of America. This is DC Comics 2000. And the main reason I'm doing this is because there is no YouTube video reviewing this, not even a motion comic, nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. There's nothing about these two particular issues at all. Uh, this is sort of a knockoff of, actually, there's actually one review, and one guy reviewed it. If basically type in DC Comics 2000, the long, not 2000, but 2000, the word, and type it on Google, and you'll find that review. And the guy gives a very bland review, and his review was pointless because it missed the point, and it was immature, and he gave it a bad rating, and I'm going to explain why. So this is based off of the DC 1 million cover. DC 1 million was about it was a 90s story that had the DC superheroes of the 90s meet the DC superheroes of the 853rd century, which is, try to say that 3 times fast. So what you have here, yes, it is a story. Basically, the reviewer for YouTube for Google, the written review was that this was a JSA JLA crossover, but that this crossover wasn't as great as the Crisis on Two Earths back in the 60s. Well, no shit. Of course it isn't. This is a separate review. This is a separate thing. This is a separate entity. This is like, why do most middle-aged people watch The Twilight Zone? They don't care too much about the science fiction. They don't care too much about the weird aliens and how realistic the special effects were, or which actors in which. They watch The Twilight Zone with Rod Serling. Maybe some women find Rod Serling attractive back then. Maybe, maybe not. But they watched it because of the metaphors and the analogies that each episode, half an hour to an hour, would bring you. So we're going to go through this very carefully. I'm going to walk you through both books of 2000. On the cover, we have Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman, Green Lantern, Kyle Rayner Green Lantern, not Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan was still Parallax. I don't like that whole alien creature possessing Hal Jordan nonsense. I like that Hal Jordan made his own decisions and turned against the Green Lanterns, but whatever. So we have Kyle Rayner Green Lantern, we have all these other heroes, and we have Atom, and we have Martian Manhunter. Cyborg was still with the Teen Titans back in the 90s, 2000s. So this is how the design looks. On the back of this, this is a time travel story. So when the JLA and JSA sort of team up, it is the original JSA, not the ones from the 2000s, the newer versions, not those ones, not the ones written by Jeff Johns later on. It would be the original team that was conceived by Gardner Fox and the like back in the 1940s. So here you have a telephone and you have a cordless phone, which back then we didn't have smartphones. We had flip phones and we had cellular phones. We didn't have anything like that yet. But the metaphor, as I'm going to tell you, the guy in the review, you're not paying attention. This is pointless, baseless. Your review missed the point of being a generational gap. I'm going to explain why this story, the two books, are the greatest superhero time travel story of all time. So right at the beginning, we're introduced to giant ants and an alien spaceship. This is a metaphor. Now, the only real villain is Dr. T Omorrow, which I believe is a Golden Age villain, I think. He's a kid who was born in the, I guess, how do I say it? I think he was born in the late 30s, and then he's a child right now in 1940. So he's killing ants with his magnifying glass. He's killing robots, spaceships. He has a vision of the future which is not like unlike that of your great grandpa when he thought the future was going to have Buck Rogers spaceships, Art Deco buildings, Art Deco rockets, Art Deco hovercrafts, and everybody was going to be nice and conservative with silver suits and ray guns and clear tubes to go like Duck Dodgers, kind of very cute future, right? But as we go to the year June 30th, 2000 AD, we're introduced to a man who, for lack of a better term, this is a man who has created a future. T Omorrow, the same kid that was playing with his magnifying glass, here he is in the future. And T Omorrow is a time traveler. He's a bastard. He just travels through time and commits crimes. This is not a guy who has superpowers. He's not Thanos from the Marvel comics. He's not Darkseid. He's not Brainiac. He's not a metahuman, but he's just a greedy guy. And this is a guy who could easily fit into, but this is before DC's Legends of Tomorrow. This is a guy that easily could be a DC Legends of Tomorrow villain. And this is his vision of the future. You see all the Buck Rogers stuff. You see all the cute future stuff. But at the bottom, you can see these people are starving. They look like mutants. They look like they look like white gangster rappers in their teenage years smoking e-cigarettes. They look like the worst kinds of people. And it's up to Dr. Morrow to give him everything they want: water, rations, food. This is his perfect life, to be this wannabe despot, a guy with no real power except the power to control time. That's his gimmick. And here he has the modern day JSA, or the JSA 2000 captured, but the guy's not remarkable. He's just lucky to know what to do. He's playing a mind game, and he has a giant computer to do so. Now at this point, we're going back to taking a trip to 1940s or 1940, and we had the Spider and the Fly. And I like what we do here, and that we are introduced to the Flash in these little, you can see my finger pointing here, these little pictures that show you each superhero with the little dossier, in type, in old type. And we start off with the story of the Flash. The Spider and the Fly are Golden Age villains that are causing trouble, and Jay Garrick, the Flash, has to stop them. And he does so, but notice now that these two people have these assault rifles that look like they're very much like the assault rifles you'd see from terrorists and ISIS today. They have these super-powered machine guns. And Jay Garrick's like, what in the fuck is this? Where did they get this stuff? What is happening here? And there was an earlier panel, but of course we see a bat shape here. So how could, in the original continuity, of course, you had in the 1990s to 2000s continuity, or post-Crisis on Infinite Earths continuity, the Justice Society of America were the only superheroes in the 1940s. There was no Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. The Green Lantern was Jay Garrick. The Flash was the Green Lantern was Alan Scott, and Jay Garrick was the Flash. Pardon me. You had Fate, you had Spectre, but you have these modern day heroes for no real reason to explain yet what they're doing here, and but these guys are using assault rifles, and we can guess that Batman is going to take them out and capture the guns. Meanwhile, if you go over to Dr. Midnight, here's another dossier and picture. He's got somebody gives him an artificial heart. This is an artificial heart that will take a couple of more decades to be realized, right? But here we are in 1940, and somebody is giving Dr. Midnight an artificial heart. And it's like, oh, this is interesting. What can't you do with it? What can you do with it? The miracles of science. So if you know the villain of T Omorrow, if you know Dr. Morrow and what he's like, you can see that he's indirectly giving these toys, these future toys, to the 1940s villains. In this case, he's giving some toys to the bad guys. He's giving some toys to the good guys. And this is a test of morality here. This is testing what is our place in the world versus the future generations versus the past generations. So this is a whole little conflict here, but watch. Again, the heart is taken away, and the owl tries to figure out. The owl sees something, but if you look here where my finger's pointing, it appears to be the atom. So he's taking away the artificial heart and all the paperwork. Then we got another dossier, the atom, and we got some firefighting going on here. It's like fire is coming from the sky. And does that look like 1940s to you? No, it doesn't. But these helicopters are sure modern day. We know what they are, but nobody from 1940 would know what these are. And so you got Alan Scott, Green Lantern, and Hawkman and Hawkgirl from the Golden Age trying to figure out what the problem is. So we have dossiers on them. I like these little dossiers. They're really nice, and they build up a nice tension to what's going on. And he's got these weird fires coming out of nowhere. Like, what is going on? So the Justice League, the Justice Society of America are trying to figure out what's going on with these modern day helicopters, with these modern missile launcher things, this fire. And here's this. That's when they realize that they're not alone. It's like aliens from another planet. And we have this beautiful rendition of Wonder Woman, Superman, and the Green Lantern coming to see them. And they're confused. They just don't know what's going on and what this is about and what this all means. Here we have another dossier in the Spectre. Jim Corrigan, police officer. He'll be more important later. And here's a kind of a joke. Kyle Rayner tries to distract Alan Scott, his predecessor, with parodies of Slash and Kiss and all this stuff to distract them. Now, keep in mind, this is 1940. You could not conceive of stuff like this. You'd be like the devil. Okay, it's like trying to introduce the internet in 1950. Okay, you're trying to scare the living daylights out of people with this next generation stuff. And here we're going to the 1940s Nazi, spy headquarters or whatever, and you got Spectre and Atom. You got some knocked out Nazis or dead Nazis or whatever. And do you notice something that's out of place in 1940 in this room? I'll give you a hint. So they find this portable computer or laptop, but they call it something else. And here I don't like that they call him the villain. They call T Omorrow the villain right away, or Adam say, "Hey, it's our killer." I don't kind of like that they call him the killer right away, but we as readers, if we know who this guy is, we kind of accept it, but it's one minor plot hole, so that's fine. I don't really worry about it. But here he says, "Oh, I've got this stuff. I've got effective weapons, effective technology. I've got all kinds of stuff to make your life easier." So he's not trying to overpower them. He's not trying to flip them off necessarily. He's got these great things. Now, this kind of thing was duplicated in Justice. Jim Kruger and Alex Ross worked on that. And it was a story about the Legion of Doom giving toys out to the people, but they were trying to take over. That was a more elaborate version of what this guy is doing. But it's all manipulation. And of course, the Spectre is going to play around with the computer. At this point, the Justice Society is baffled. They're not sure what to do. They're not sure what to make of all this stuff, but they know something is not right. The Flash is the only one who is doubting anything that is, he's doubting to take this technology and keep it for ourselves. If we take this future technology, this stuff that doesn't belong to us, what's to say what's going to happen next? Yes, it's a cheat. It's like getting cheat codes. But what if it's going to be used for the wrong thing? If we're not smart enough to know how to handle this technology properly, it's like Albert Einstein and the atomic bomb. If we misuse this technology that's years ahead of us, we're going to really fuck things up. Well, we were just going to. There's just no way around it. A little inside joke: they destroy a computer. The computer has a system error. They're trying to figure out, of course, how things work. T Omorrow has got a satellite in the sky. So he's not only does he have a computer, he has a satellite to operate some sort of basic internet. I'm going to go over more of this part 2, but watch these analogies so far about technology. Watch all this that I'm telling you about.